So I'm going to ask for yours, starting with my name is, and then go into what you do.
Okay, my name is Charles Martin, and I'm a chiropractor. I've been practicing 43 years at this point, and most of that I've been focused on the Gonstead discipline, I'll call it, which is a type of chiropractic, in my thinking, that addresses in the most realistic way possible the subluxation, the chiropractic subluxation, and has a way to realistically and with good integrity address, as well as I understand it, what the subluxation involves. For most of that time, in fact, it's become, the adjusting has pretty much been my dominant focus in terms of what I want to develop, and it's a very fascinating journey. I've done other things as well. I have a diplomat in chiropractic neurology. I have a Bachelor of Science in psychology, and done some writing, and but it's always been foundational around the subluxation and what out there in chiropractic addresses the subluxation in the most basic and straightforward manner, that is that you can track, that you can validate clinically, and has veracity as much as is possible in this still a really kind of a young profession. There's a tremendous amount of potential that this profession offers, and we're just scratching the surface, and Dr. Gonstead definitely got a hold of it, probably better than way vast majority of other chiropractors. And so that made my mind up for me to do this work.
So that's what was your trigger or start point, or what piqued your interest. That for you, kind of just describe to me that moment you're like, yeah, I'm going to be a chiropractor.
Oh, to go into chiropractic?
Yeah. So
yeah. Oh, that's fun. Oh boy. So, I've always been like into people, helping people. It always made me feel good. My family kind of comes from that area. My father was a top scientist in academia, opened the first naval postgraduate school in existence, and so I heard his mentality in the background, and my mother was always very caring, so I knew I wanted to do that, and I studied psychology, and I got my degree, and I went, uh-oh, this is a crock. No offense, but I need to help more people than just a few people here. And so I was hitchhiking in Santa Barbara, California, during my last year or two of school, and I was on the on-ramp, and this guy drives over in a big white Cadillac convertible, big white 10-gallon hat on, big white coat. He's about 65 years old, and I just went, wow, what's happening with you? He was just like flying. And he said, I just graduated from chiropractic college, and I'm getting ready to start my practice. And I went, whew. So that was the subjective beginning of the whole thing, and I went, wow, wow, wow. And just to draw out the story a little bit, this sounds really crazy, but honestly, if you're in this profession long enough, you talk to enough people, there's a spirit there, and I think somebody else said very similar thing happened to them, and they ended up in chiropractic. But So just for fun, we'll call that the chiropractic angel. It kind of dragged me into this, and I got into it without any knowledge whatsoever of what it was. I'd never been adjusted. I didn't know what adjustment was. I just knew that it was natural health. And I started discriminating between types of practice. That's kind of where I had my first Gonstead. And when I was at Palmer, it was a wide open campus. All the chiropractic greats would come and talk about chiropractic and their techniques, and that also was intellectually really mind blowing. And I came up here, and I think it was his last seminar, and he was given a course, and he had a baby who the baby, I can't remember what it was. Honestly, not like some of these other guys who really, I was just investigating, honestly. And there was something about the way he handled the infant that told me that he was going to get to the bottom of the problem. He had a grasp of subluxation, of the reality of subluxation, and its nature so well understood that he could easily find it. I mean, he could just go through things and find it. So that was really the recall I have, and I can't draw out the experience any more than that. And because actually I was kind of in the search mode and all of that, but that really impressed me, obviously, and that he knew where to go to find what he needed to find. And he was just a warm individual too. He's just so present, and so it checked all my boxes in a sense. And I said, boy, I'm really gonna go for this. And so I ended up going lots and lots and lots. And it's fascinating, wonderful journey.
So I'm curious, on the flip side of that, right, you explained how you saw these two different individuals. One guy, the chiropractic angel, or
Oh,
you know
okay,
what I mean?
yeah.
And then also like Dr. G, and that kind of pushed you along that path. So my question is, how would then someone who maybe was under your tutelage looked at Dr. Martin in that same way? What kind of things would they be saying about you?
Boy, I don't have any idea other than that there's a legitimacy to this work that is unparalleled, and that I gave that legitimacy its true value, or its full value. And I would say if that happens, and then the next person and the next person, I think that's also at the core of Gonstead, is that it contains less BS in its correct application than so much else, not only just in healthcare and chiropractic, but just in like everywhere. It's a really ethical, solid human endeavor. So,
Would you attribute, because the way you described how, in your example about Dr. Gonstead and that child, that baby, would you attribute that sensitivity that he had to what? His sheer numbers of how many people and how many times he's done this, or maybe a special gift that only he had? Like, why, or what would you attribute Dr. Gonstead's, let's say, proficiency, sensitivity to?
maybe he was visited by the chiropractic angel himself. Who knows? He was a savant. He could see things that were cloudy to everybody else. He was schooled at the time when Palmer School was just red hot with, great, this is in the 20s, probably the heyday of chiropractic. lots of really smart people, full of MDs, full of seekers, full of smart people. BJ was still, on fire and things like that. And they talked a lot about subluxation. He got it. And then he just went about the business of focusing, as far as my impression and my looking back, focusing on and not getting off the job of finding the subluxation and fixing the subluxation. That was his job, and he didn't let anything really pull him away from that.
And so, what did you ever get adjusted by him?
No.
But you did attend his clinic. You did watch him work.
I saw him once in one class. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm not really the guy to give you like a story about hanging out with them and things like that. I'm the other guy who kind of came into it more conservatively and kind of that approach rather than wow, that kind of thing. So
no problem.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to do something or be someone you're not. So
but I think that's okay too. I mean, I think there's more than, there are different facets to these individuals, and so that, I am kind of I don't mind doing research. I'm not a stranger to it, and I don't mind doing it. I'm comfortable with it, and that's kind of what I was doing at the time.
And so, as you're here this weekend at this 2021 clinic here in Mount Horeb, what is going through your mind in terms? You said 43 years,
yeah.
right? You've been practicing. So, since 82 or something like that, to today, 2021, you've seen a lot, you have experienced a lot. So what from that 43-year span, if you could condense into a few gems that you're handing to this group of 200 people out here, right? And such, what kind of gems, if you had to just a handful, what would those be?
That to be, successful as a chiropractor isn't really a job, career per se. It's a way to change yourself. The successful chiropractor is a different biological entity. We have skills that are nowhere else in terms of palpation, in terms of our physical reflexes, agility, balance. It's like being, a kind of like a ping pong athlete, world-class athlete. There's just certain attributes and effects of the human body, and you have to be comfortable letting that happen to you so that you can be that person, and you don't stop being a chiropractor if you've done that. If it's changed your whole nervous system and brain, you don't just stop doing that. That's kind of the sense I get, with these stories that seem to have happened. And so I would say, be sure you can check the box that says, I really feel I'm drawn to help people. You have to check that box and then let it happen, right? Be comfortable with changes. You're going to see challenges. You're going to have to shed things. It's a purification by fire sometimes, but that box is checked for a reason. It's because you're opening a whole new door for yourself, and you're doing it in a sense for reasons greater than yourself, to really be comfortable with that process.
I've heard some doctors explain it as like I'm paraphrasing here, but for the greater good, for humans, and they use that word, humans or human race, greater power. So it's this selflessness theme that I'm hearing. It's beyond the self, and people as a whole, as a human. Like that's what we all are, humans, and I feel like that is the rewarding part. Is that I'm kind of making that thing that I'm a part of, but that better, person by person, adjustment by adjustment. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's really just fulfilling, manifesting your destiny, in a sense, your biological destiny. I like to compare humanity to the human body, and we're all cells in the body of man. And some of us are nerve tenders. You know, if you know a little bit about physiology, you have the nerves, and they're very specialized. All they do is send impulses and messages. And then you have the nerve tenders. The nerve tenders are more important than the nerve, because the nerve tenders provide the nerve with nutrition and oxygen and everything they need so they can do that one specialized, to let things flow and communicate and let intelligence operate. So I kind of see us as those, as the glial cells. They're the glial cells, and so we're concerned about things communicating and reaching back and forth and responding correctly and in a healthy way. And the other thing I see with myself individually, again using actual biology and physiology as a model, is to be a synapse. In other words, things come in and they can go anywhere and they can stop and they can do different things. But it's the job of the synapse to actually appropriately guide to the next synapse, right? And so forth and so on. So if humanity was a biological entity and we were the cells in it, I think, though, that's sort of my vision of, what I do in humanity, so it's a part of being. Really, it's at this unfoldment of human, the human branch of life, in a sense. So that's nice. The connectedness of that is really nice, I think, as a just a thing living its life here. So
That's one. Does that, the way you just described it, which is great. Like I get it. Even me with high school biology, like, oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I get
nice,
it. Okay.
nice.
You know what I mean? Like, high school was for me, I don't know, almost 20 years ago. So like when I heard that example, analogy, that was beautiful. And I'm thinking, does that extend beyond humans? I have the book, The Gonstead Adjuster by Dr. Ammon. We're interviewing him tomorrow. And I know that in there's a picture of him Dr. Gonstead adjusting a horse.
Yeah.
And I talked to some people here, like, oh yeah, my dog, So does this kind of example extend beyond just us? Because there's a lot of other living life. There's a lot more life. So does what you do extend beyond the human condition? Does it go?
Sure wish the hell somebody shut up in there.
We'll check you later. So,
That's all on me.
does it extend beyond the human condition? I think it's an expression of some branch going back through the great tradition of life. Who knows, and when it gets too many links back, I blank out. I have no idea what it is, but I think we all sense that we're part of something special, something purposeful, perhaps innate intelligence. And that extends certainly outside the human race. And honestly, the human race may not be the end-all be-all, too. So but we're a chain, we're a link in that chain, and we want to, you know, respect it. And I think chiropractic does that much better than the biological tradition part of it, much better than, you know, some guy who says, oh, I tested this technique for a year and it works. So to me, that is an affront to this wonderful grand tradition of life that honors people going all the way back. And we have our challenges and we have our imperfections, and likely humanity isn't finished at this moment. It probably has to go some other places, but it's nice to be a part, feel like there's an organic connection all the way through, you know, time. It's like a nice belongingness to it.
All right, Dr. Martin, I appreciate your time.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
This guy's gonna break down the door for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, once
Okay.
again, Charlie, you shut your mouth off for more than you were supposed to.
Oh, I had him in my palm of my hand. He was
Now you had
fascinating.
yourself in the
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah, your palm.